Today, I have a special guest with me today. Her name is Stephanie, and she is just an empowered mom who finally took charge of her birth. And she wants to talk to you today about what the heck you do with the placenta after a free birth or a birth where it was an unplanned, unassisted, and you're like, what do I do? This is something that I've seen a lot happens, is that you're all like, I know what to do during the birth and I can push my baby out, but then I'm kind of freaked out about the placenta, so I really need to have a midwife be there to deal with that. Well, guess what? I actually helped attend an unassisted birth with my beautiful star student, Rebecca, my empowered mom, and we knew what the heck to do with the placenta. And Stephanie also knows what the heck to do with it, including placenta art and everything you can do after the process when you're like, I've got this hunk of flesh, what do I do with it? Do I eat it? Do I do art with it? Do I bury it? She's going to talk to you all about that today. So Stephanie, hi, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I just love what you were talking about in our meeting earlier when we talked last week. And I'm just happy to bring you on. So can you tell everyone what you told me about how you got into this?
Yes, so I'm actually an engineer and worked for National Security for 2 years. And I also had a wedding business for a while too. But once I became pregnant, it was okay, this is it. And I always wanted to be a mother. So I went the normal route. I trusted the doctors and everything. I ended up with, my first one was a forced C-section. Then the next one was a miscarriage. Then the next one was an even worse C-section. I was trying to have a gentle C-section is what it's called. And that didn't go well either. So then I said, okay, this is it. Next one, if I ever do, I'm going to do this myself. And I got pretty darn close. I went all the way through. I did have a midwife for about 34, 35 weeks. And then I decided, we decided as a couple that we could do this ourselves. So I got all the way through and I got to transition. I was about to push, but I didn't realize that at the time because it's my first time. And I caved because of all the voices in my head, all the relatives and people that were scared. And this is all during, the
C word.
So we ended up going, I called an ambulance, we ended up going in, and I thought it was, I thought there was something wrong, but it turns out no, there wasn't. And I could have done it all myself, but I just chickened out last second. So that one was the worst. No one listened. It was horrible. So I did try to get in touch with people and try to fix this all, and it just didn't end up working out. So instead I went, and I'm very empowered now, and I've made my own birth course. I've worked with a lot of mothers now, and I'm fed up. I'm done with the system, and I'm doing everything I can to change what birth is now. And yeah, it's just sorry, it's still raw. It's just like,
yeah,
my God.
I can imagine.
It's only been a year, and it's just I see online and just around with friends and stuff, and it's just, oh yeah, you go there, you do this, and that's what happens. And it's like, no, we've been doing this for thousands of years, thousands, without doctors. This just happened in the last about 100 years, and it was men decided to change everything to make a buck, and that just isn't right. It just isn't. So yeah, I wrote a birth course, and yes, placenta wise, yes, I was going through the same thing. I was very scared about birthing the placenta because you just hear stories or whatever, and with C-sections you don't ever see it. They don't show it to you or anything, so you don't know how it feels. it actually was not bad at all. It was very easy.
Yes,
So
my midwife, I remember with Hunter's birth, after I'd had the trauma of them pulling him out because his shoulders didn't free themselves immediately. So they pulled him. And I just remember her saying, the placenta doesn't have bones. So it's
right.
okay. The placenta doesn't have bones. You can push this out. And then it was like, it was nothing.
Yeah.
So I always remembered that. It's like the placenta doesn't have bones. Like it's easy. It's like just
It really
flesh.
was. Yeah. It really was. It was, not to be gross, but it was just like, after doing a baby, it's very simple. It's
Yes.
and it was just like a big clot. It went through by itself. I didn't even have to push. It was just with my next contraction.
Oh,
It
wow.
came
So
out.
your uterus just pushed yours out.
Yeah, it was about 7 minutes after giving birth to her. So yeah, it wasn't bad at all. And they let me look at it. And it just looks like the one side is looks like a root system, and then the other side kind of looks like meat or a brain, kind of in cartoons.
Yeah. Like a brain tree.
Yeah.
My daughter,
Yeah.
Michaela, she's 5, and she calls it the tree of life because, of course, that's what
Yeah.
I've been calling it. But she's like,
Mhm.
oh, mommy, it really does look like a tree. And I'm like, yes, it does. So she likes the placenta. But I mean,
Yeah.
for the fact that in our culture, we don't really get exposed to that. I mean, now in the last couple of years, we've got Instagram and we've got Facebook and we've got TikTok and we've got the availability of those images. But
Yes.
for a long time, like you really only saw a drawing and it was like
Yes.
kind of squished in the corner in your disembodied torso, and there's the baby, and they don't really show you.
Yeah. And it's actually quite large and beautiful. I mean, it's an organ that you make with your baby. That's what gives you it's what gives the baby the mother's nutrition, the blood, the oxygen. Like, it's an amazing thing. And
Yeah.
it's just thrown out. No big deal. And it's like, come on. You give birth to the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And then usually the average is about 45 minutes to 2 hours to birth a placenta.
Yes.
And I have seen it go to a whole day. You prefer not to go to that, but it's not the end of the world as long as you're not bleeding too much, as long as there isn't a steady stream of blood that's too much. You can, so some of the things that I've seen that help is if it's still not out and you'd like to move on, try a different position, let gravity do the work, go and pee, because a mother should pee in the first about 2 hours after giving birth, and the bladder can be full, and that can hold back the placenta from moving down, so that can help. And if you're having problems peeing, go and get the peppermint essential oil. Either rub that on your thighs or put a couple drops into the toilet, and that kind of gives, it's weird, I don't know how it does it, but it kind of gives you a sense of, okay, like, because you just push out a baby, so to push to pee is like, which way, which hole, what's going on?
It's very weird the first time. Like you kind of have to remember how to pee again.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
then it's
So
like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so the peppermint really helps with that. And then also, if you're not comfortable with different positions, then go into the shower, and that can really help too. Just try different positions, kind of stand up against the wall, just kind of, try different things.
Yes, and that's what's
that way.
inside of Home Birth on Your Own Terms by Heather Baker, that book as well, which I had Rebecca
I love
read.
that book.
Oh my God, that's like my favorite book to give my clients, especially when they're doing an unassisted, because it's just got such a wealth of information. And like we did all of the things because Rebecca's placenta was basically just sitting there. And like we didn't realize that. And finally at about, like the baby was born at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, just a little over 1. And then from that point on, it was probably about 5 o'clock. And we're like, okay, well, where is this thing? Like, all she wanted to do was just go to bed. And she's like, I just want the placenta out so I can go to bed. So she texted Heather Baker, and I called my friend Gloria LeMay. And so we both had our midwives. And it turns out it had just been sitting in her vagina. Like, she had like the contractions that had basically moved the whole damn thing out. And then she just needed to pull it to get it out. And what Gloria said to me, it was really funny. She's like, you're going to have to tell her partner, and he's not going to want to do it, but you're going to tell him he's going to wrap the cloth around the cord so it's not slippery, so he's got a good grip. And he's going to pull, and it's going to come out. Because if he doesn't, you're going to go to the hospital, and some pimply-faced teenager is going to do it. And that's what she said. Like, she's very matter of fact about it. And I was just like, oh my God, Gloria, like, you're just the treasure. And she's like in her 70s too. So it's like this wise woman, this little old lady who's just this absolutely wise woman in our field of birth and everything. And she's just like very straightforward, to the point. She's got that sense of humor. Like, it's just going to be some pimply teenager and he's going to do it. And it's like, you might as well just have your partner do it and stay home. And like, there was hardly any bleeding too, because I mean, your uterus contracts down. And one thing they don't tell you is that when they do the Pitocin and the management, that actually causes more bleeding and more pain and more interference than if you just leave the damn thing alone. Yeah. And just let it happen.
Yeah. Or use the tincture, what is it? It's Angelica.
Yeah, I think there was, Angelica. That's the one that we use.
Yeah. Use Angelica to get the placenta out. You use shepherd's purse or womb syringe after the placenta's out for hemorrhaging.
Yeah, there's a whole list inside of the Heather Baker's book as well.
Yeah.
And full disclosure, though, we did do the Angelica, and Rebecca said it's not pretty. It's not fun. She did not like that taste at all. She's like, oh my God, this stuff is awful. And I'm like,
yeah.
Well,
and you have to hold it under your tongue, and it's
she said it was the worst. She said it was vile, and it was funny, but it turns out that, I mean, she didn't even really need it, because, as I said, like, the placenta was just sitting
right there. Yeah.
And she just couldn't feel it because she birthed the baby. And like, everybody's worried, like I said, about birthing the placenta. And then it's like, you can't even feel if it's in your vagina. So how bad can it be?
Right.
If you can't even feel it, and it's like this blobby organ, it's not that bad. What makes it bad is that Pitocin shot, because then your afterbirth pains are just, they're brutal. I hate Pitocin.
Yes, agreed. It gives me this weird headache, and I feel just groggy for days.
Is that where that came from? Because I had a headache after.
Yes.
And I just had a tiny little shot of it just to deliver the placenta in the hospital, because they had a thing that you have to deliver the placenta within 30 minutes.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I know. And you just said it, like, it can be like 2 hours and sometimes more. And as long as you don't have the bleeding, it's nothing to worry about. Like, you really just want to pay attention to your bleeding, and then the placenta will come out. And sometimes it's just sitting there, and you're breastfeeding your baby, and they're like, oh, maybe I should pull this out now.
Right. Yeah. That's another thing too. The baby needs to go to the mother instantly. The baby out, goes on the chest, skin to skin. Smell your baby. Let your baby start breastfeeding like that. Or if the for me, one of mine was the cord was very short.
Yes.
So she was on my tummy, so I couldn't even get up to her. So I truly believe, besides everything else that was happening that was stressful at the hospital, that's one of the reasons why I hemorrhaged, was because I wasn't able to get her on my chest and get going with everything, because that sends a chemical through you to start those contractions, to start everything going. And I didn't do that. So it's so important to have the baby right there with you, start connecting instantly.
And doing that breast crawl too, not just like, here you go, baby, put them on the boob, but have them actually do the maneuver, because their little feet, they have that step reflex, and they're actually doing that fundal massage for you. And it's way nicer having a squiggly, wiggly little baby than the nurse doing that thing.
Right.
Like, I'm so glad I didn't do that. Like, I didn't have that happen to me in the hospital. Like, I was like, nobody's touching me. But when I hear it's like, oh, you have to have the fundal massage, I'm like, really? Because I just did it myself.
Yeah.
Like you can actually do your own fundal massage.
Every 4 hours. It's horrible. And then you just sit there with your mouth shut. And they're like, how's that? I'm like, how do you think it is? Like, don't ask me stupid questions.
Right? It's
like,
so stupid.
Like, yeah, it's.
But I mean, a lot of this is based on the fact that when they first started putting births into hospitals, they were just managing it like an assembly line. The moms were all drugged up on scopolamine and Demerol, called twilight sleep. So they didn't have the hormones. And then the babies were dragged out with forceps. So they weren't even ready to come. And then the babies were also not breastfeeding to the mothers, because they were only giving the babies to the breast every 4 hours. I think it was like, there was that thing in the 60s where it was like 12 hours after the birth, we'll bring the baby to you.
Yes.
And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
Now that we know how important that golden hour is.
So pissed off.
Right? Our poor grandmothers.
Yeah. Even with my first, that was just in 2015. They didn't even know what skin on skin was. They did not even know.
Oh.
So it's just like,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Hunter was born in 2013, and like skin to skin, like I wanted that, but I'd never heard of that before. And I got it because I had a midwife at the time, and she happened to have been like one of those midwives from the 70s who was like basically just a traditional birth attendant, and then became a registered midwife when we opened that up in 2000.
Okay.
So Canada didn't even have midwives for a very long time. And then we got it registered.
Okay. Wow.
So so we have all that knowledge from the mother, like the older midwives are basically traditional birth attendants who came into the system later. And some of them didn't even bother to get registered because they're like, yeah, this isn't going to be good.
Yeah. And
like
then now,
yeah.
I don't know if you have that in Canada, but here in the States, now you have to watch out for midwives.
Yep. Yeah, no, that term is, we actually have quite a few midwives too.
Yeah.
Some of them, it's not even intentional midwives. It's just because they're so scared of getting in trouble, and they don't realize just how much actual power they really have, that they're like, like, we don't want to get in trouble with the health authority. And it's like, yes, but your midwife philosophy says that you're allowed to do this. So just because you have this bully over here telling you, like, doesn't mean anything. Like, you're still supposed to do no harm and facilitate what's happening. And of course, I'm not sure, have you read Rachel Reed's book yet? Reclaiming Childbirth as a Rite of Passage?
I've not that one.
I read. Oh my God, Stephanie, you have to read that book. Okay, I tell everybody to read that book.
I will.
You're going to love it. They have a whole childbirth history. You're going to dive right into it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's fairly new. I think it came out last year. It might have even come out last summer. I just remember that when it finally did come out, my friends were all reading it. And then they're like, Carly, you need to get this book. And I'm like, yeah, it's on my list. It's on my list. And finally, it's like, I can't wait for this to come in the mail. I'm just going to get it on Kindle. I just can't wait anymore.
Nice. Yeah, that's when I was busy last year.
Yeah, I can't even remember when I bought it, but I do know it's a fairly recent book. Okay. But it's just amazing.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out for sure.
Yeah. So we've talked about how to birth the placenta. What the heck do we do with it after?
So you want to look it over. Let's talk about that next.
Yes.
Looking it over, check the color, make sure it's red, deep red, red purple, something like that. And like we already said, it looks like the one side is a tree root system and the other side looks like a cartoon brain or meat. And if it comes out green, don't eat it. Don't do anything with it. You have to discard it because, well, there's still other things you can do with it, but don't consume it because that means the baby pooped inside and not want to do that.
Yeah.
So don't do that.
Usually it's a good rule of thumb. If something doesn't look like the color it's supposed to be, you don't want to eat it.
Right. Tell that to my dog.
Well, animals are colorblind, so maybe that's why.
Oh, there you go. So then also check that it's whole. If there's any pieces missing, take that that tincture that we were talking about, and they'll come out like clots then. And just kind of like putting together a puzzle, make sure that they all fit together and that everyone is accounted for. And personally, if I was doing unassisted, I would just go ahead and take shepherd's purse or womb syringe at that point once everything's out, just for the heck of it, just to be sure that I don't hemorrhage. I would probably just do that.
Yeah.
Personally. And so what to do with it after? Some people do what's called a lotus birth. I personally have never done that before, and I don't know that I would. It kind of scares me a little, but that's just me. You have the placenta in a special sack that you can get off of like Etsy or wherever, and some people put herbs or salt and things in it. And basically the point of it is to keep the cord on the baby and the cord with the placenta, so no cutting, and it will just fall off naturally, which I've heard is actually the best for the belly button for the baby. It actually like comes off like perfectly. I've heard. But also you have to be careful because it's in this sack and you don't want it to stink.
Yeah.
And then you have to be careful not to pull too much. Make sure there's no pull on the baby's the baby belly button with the cord. You gotta be sure there's no pull. And that's another thing. Even if you do cut it, do not touch the cord. And I want to, and especially when it's like hanging, it's the day before it's about to fall off, and you're just like, can't I just stop? Don't take it off. It will fall off by itself. If the baby is bigger and not in newborn diapers, usually newborn diapers have that little
the cutout
circle cutout. If you don't, make sure you're folding the diaper over so that you're not rubbing up against it or anything. But anyway, back to the placenta. So there's the lotus birth. There's some people will have it raw. If you're hemorrhaging, I've heard people taking a chunk of it and putting it in your cheek. I've never done that. And that
didn't sound appetizing to me.
I don't think I would. I've heard of it working, but I don't, it's okay. What I personally do want to try though is encapsulating it. So you go and you cook it, you dry it, put it in a dehydrator and make it into a powder and encapsulate it. And then you just take these pills. I think it's like, I forget how many it is. It's like maybe two. I think
you can have almost like over a year's worth. I have quite a few friends who actually encapsulate. And when we're on video together, like sometimes they even have a placenta and they're working on it while we're in class. It's hilarious. Nice. But I think it's about a year's worth. It probably depends on the size of the placenta and how many pills that you're taking. Like some people might take maybe one every day, and others might be like, I'm only going to take this on certain days when I really need it. They can take it, I think, up to 2 years postpartum. But I really wanted to do it, and my midwife wasn't able to do it. She didn't have any time booked. So my placenta ended up in my freezer, and then I had a house fire, so I didn't even get to bury it.
Oh no.
Yeah, I know. I lost my placenta. It sucked. And then at the same time, I'm like, the person who is cleaning out this burnt up house, when they go in the freezer, they're going to be like, what the heck is this?
Well, yeah, I've always wanted to try it because I heard it helps with postpartum depression, milk
Yep.
supply, just so many things. So I've always wanted to try it because I think that would be so beneficial. Because yeah, personally, I've always had problems with milk supply, postpartum depression, all that. So it would be really nice to try sometime. You can
Yeah, I've
also
heard different things. So I mean,
yeah,
it depends on your body and everything, but I mean, some women absolutely swear by it. I know my client Lisa, she did it, and she said, you know, like this was like amazing. I loved it. And then there's other people that like it didn't really do anything for me, or I don't think it
right,
did.
yeah.
So, but it doesn't hurt.
Right. Yeah.
Not
I
gonna
mean,
kill ya.
everybody's different, and it's a conversation piece.
Yep. Another thing I was told as an alternative, like I didn't do it, but my midwife said, well, you can put it a little tiny chunk of the frozen stuff into a smoothie and blend it that way.
Yes.
I'm like, I don't think I want to eat it, like actually taste the placenta. I want it in a
Right.
capsule.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard it's very iron, kind of like a liver,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like
Well, it
that.
is an organ meat.
Right. So it makes sense. And honestly, it kind of sounds good right now, but I haven't had meat in a while.
Oh, this is why birth workers were so weird.
I go for a placenta right now.
Maybe I should do like a video within a video, like you know the memes are. It's like what's
Yeah.
one topic that you talk about that the kidnappers send you back because you won't stop talking
Yes.
about this, and we do this
Yes.
one.
Exactly.
So you can eat your placenta. Oh, we're so weird. But I love it though.
So
You kind of have to have that sense of humor to be a birth worker.
oh, you do, and especially with the other side of how crazy they are and how horribly they treat women. It's like you
Yes.
have to have a sense of humor. Like that's what happened every single time. Every single time, like, oh, it's gonna be a C-section, and you shut off. There's that wall, that gut hit stomach feeling, and you just turn everything off. And you either start bawling or you start making jokes. And I did a little bit of both. Every time I'd be just like joking, and they're just like, oh, you're so funny. And it's like, don't talk to me.
Because it's our defense mechanism at that moment.
Right.
Like there's the fight, flight, freeze, flop, or fawn.
Exactly.
Like that's what you have to do to get through it. I mean, I crack jokes sometimes about like people are like, well, you've gone through so much. And I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, it's a soap opera. I like soaps, so it makes sense. Sometimes I think my Sims have called like karmic gods on me because some of the things that I did to them happened to me. I'm like, well, what if I was actually like I called that in?
Yeah.
But I mean, things have turned around now, and I'm stronger for it, and I learned a lot, and now I can help others. And I mean, the same thing for you. You went through this trauma, but you're taking that, and you've now built this beautiful course, and you're going to help so many moms with that. So we talked about eating the placenta. We talked about dealing with the placenta after birth, but there's the other side of the placenta art. And some people are really wanting to know, like, this is this beautiful tree, and I just want to capture that. But obviously you don't want to have a piece of organ in your freezer forever just to go look at it whenever you want.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I've seen people make jewelry out of it. I've also seen people make jewelry out of breast milk too. Those are beautiful.
Oh, I want those.
You can use the cord, you can use the placenta. I've seen people dry the cord and kind of use that as art. I've seen people you take it and you kind of use it like a stamp and put paint on one side and stamp it on the paper, and then you
Yes,
can
I've
print
seen
that.
those.
That's beautiful. I love that. I love it when oh, I love the pictures of the baby is still attached and they do that little heart with the cord.
Oh, I love that.
I love that. That gets me every time. I can read through the whole story. I'm fine. Then I see that picture. I'm just like, oh.
Right? It's just so beautiful.
It is. And then the last one is you can plant it with a tree.
Yes,
And then
that
I
was what I
love
wanted
that.
to do.
Yeah, I love that because you're able to, I mean, depending on how you do it, you're able to give that to your child later and say, this is your birth tree. This is your placenta, like, this is yours. Like, oh, it gets me even now.
I know, right?
It's
And
so
I didn't
beautiful.
get to plant my tree.
I'm sorry. I didn't either. They threw mine out. So I'm sorry.
It's not garbage.
The next one.
Exactly. Yes. Well, when I get my ideal partner and everything, I'm having more babies, and I'm going to have breast milk art, and I'm going to have like the placenta art, and it's just going to be like, well, I mean, because I'm a birth doula, it just makes sense.
Right.
At this point, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to have like the belly cast, and everything's going to be around my house.
Oh,
my office is just going to have like everything. But I mean, I have this necklace that says birth warrior, and it has my kids' birthstones. Not sure if you can see it very well.
Beautiful.
But yeah, it's got the emerald stone and the aquamarine for my kids' birthstones. It says birth warrior. I wanted to get one for my clients made, but the woman who did them was like a local friend, and she was a neighbor of my other friend Wendy, who had given it to me. And she's like, I don't know where I can find her. So I'm like, that would have been such a great gift for my clients to go through and have. And I don't know where to find this woman because I have no idea who it was. And she doesn't have the contact information. So if she's ever out there and she sees this Instagram, call me, send me a message, Carly at empoweringmomsbirth.ca, and let me know that you made these, because I want to be able to buy more for my clients and tell people about you. You're amazing. I love this necklace. It survived the house fire, and I love it. I was so happy that it didn't get all gross from the flames, and that fire sucked.
I'm sorry.
It happens. It happens. 2019 was not a kind year to me. 2020 was a little better, because that's when I realized that I could rebuild Empowering Moms. And really, I did a heck of a lot.
Yeah. Wow.
So we're coming up on time, and I know that you've got things that you have to do. You've got your little ones to take care of as well, your sweet little red-haired angels. And I just wanted to have people know where they can find more information on you, where they can get your course or reach out to you for any help, or if they have any questions. So
so my blog is windsofinspiration.com, and there's a pop-up and a little thing down below that talks about my birthing course. It's online birthing course. It's called Birthing Unchained, and it's about rediscovering the foundation and freedom of birth. And I just finished it. It's beautiful. It covers everything, and I take you through no matter what you decide to pick, whether it's a hospital birth, assisted at home, unassisted at home, I'll get you through it. And because of the things that I went through, I know what it's like to be financially just not able to, midwives are 3,000 to 10,000 to 15,000 in some states. So my course is only $49, and that's for everyone. And it's really, it's easy to get to, accessible, and it's there forever. And yeah, it's really awesome.
yeah, and I love that you're making it accessible too, because I'm building my own stuff right now. It's not done yet, but I I wanted that accessibility. And I just, when you told me that you were building a course, I'm like, I need to talk to you like right now and find out what's going on here so that we can work together and figure this out so that you can get that out there.
I don't want anyone else. No woman should go through what I did again and again and again. No one should go through this ever. So now you have a choice. There's information out here. This is 7 years in the making. I've done so much research, classes, articles, talked to doctors, midwives, you name it. This is 7 years of hard work and blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
I love, honestly, my favorite part of it, I will add just real quick. My husband wrote the epilogue, the final chapter, and it's a man's perspective on pregnancy and beyond. And he talks about how to support your woman and like, you know, what's sex like afterwards, and like, you know, just finances, what you have to do as a man now, and like, okay, you're not going to see the baby for 9-10 months, but it is there, and you got to get your together now. And it's just, it's so,
my God, I love it. I love it because one of my pillars of empowerment is the right support. So I just got on a call not too long ago before we started connecting today. And I was talking about this with her as well, about how you need to have your partner on board, and the masculine role, if whether it's a male partner or someone who has that masculine energy is the protection so that you can be in the feminine when it comes to birth, because birth, of course, is a feminine energy. It's transformative. It's receiving. It's just that intuition. It's just there.
Yes.
Like that's where it comes down to. And like whether you identify as male or female, like you have both masculine and feminine energy.
Yes.
Because it's a dyad. And for the longest time, our culture has not acknowledged that. Like men are supposed to just be men and women are just supposed to be women. And we're not supposed to cross. And then it just screws everything up. It just screws the whole thing up. So I love it that your husband actually wrote that epilogue, and I'd love to read it. I can't wait to see this course, and I'm just so excited with what you're doing, Stephanie. Like, this is amazing. Yeah. And one thing that I know in the birth work field and in my own learning as a virtual coach and learning business is that you can try to do all of the things and it can take you 7 years, or in my case, it can take you 9 years to learn this stuff. And like, it takes a lot of dedication. Like you are pouring over hours and hours and hours of research. Like we get really into this stuff, and like, for myself, when I learn something, I research the crap out of it. But what I found is that when you learn from somebody who's already done that work for you, you get those results so much faster.
Yes.
So getting that course with the 7 years of experience, like what, I'm curious, how long does it take someone to get through this material?
Oh, I don't think more than a week, honestly. Like it reads like an interactive ebook, honestly. There's no tests, no quizzes. It is an online course because it's on Teachable. But honestly, it reads like, I wanted it to be less of, I am at this level, you're here and you're learning from me, and like textbook. I wanted it to be more like woman to woman, friend to friend. Hey, you're going to experience this. Hey, if this is happening, do this. You know, it's just like suggestions and just really just friends talking.
And trusting their intuition too.
Yeah, there's a ton of empowerment in it too. I keep saying we're goddesses. I truly believe that. All women, we are goddesses. This is an incredible, just, birth is amazing.
You are going to love reclaiming childbirth as a rite of passage, woman. You are going to absolutely adore it. I cannot believe you haven't read that book yet.
I'm going to go get it tonight.
You're going to fall in love with it. You're going to be like, oh my God, Carly, you were right. Because she even talks about the goddess myths and everything and how that started. And there's a whole thing about snakes. Like, you know how snakes are supposed to be evil? Well, actually, that's one of our symbols, and the patriarchy just twisted it. Like, they like to twist everything and made it wrong. And actually, there's like this whole thing about the snakes and transformation and rebirth. And oh my God, it's just the most amazing book. And I love that I get to teach it every single week inside of my classes. Because I just sit there with the chapter and we just have a discussion about it. So, I mean, I would love you to read that book so we can talk about it.
Okay, sounds good.
Oh, Stephanie, this is amazing. Thank you so much for putting this together. And again, so can you just tell them your website again one more time so they have it?
Sure. windsofinspiration.com. And there should be a pop-up for the birth course. And then it's also down at the bottom, the tabs down there. And then I believe in your bio today, I gave you a direct link to the sales page so that it's just quick purchase and you're in right away.
Yes. And I will be putting that up later this week as well. I'm so swamped with everything I'm doing. But windsofinspiration.com, and Stephanie, you are in the Facebook group. So all you have to do is you can also drop your link inside of the chat in our Facebook group. And for anybody who is following on YouTube or Instagram in the future or now, whenever this is put up, like the time is now, and this is good all the time. So this is not like a limited time thing. Like Stephanie's course is forever.
Yes.
And if you're watching this even 2 years from now, like just go to windsofinspiration.com and get this course because this is amazing. And I'm just so proud of you, Stephanie, that you took a really horrible birth experience and you said, no, we're not doing this. We're not going to perpetuate that feeling of I went through trauma and that's just how birth is. And I'm just going to just stuff my feelings deep down, but really we can do better. And I'm going to do something about it. Not just we can do better. I'm going to whine about how we can do better, but I'm going to take action on this. I'm going to become empowered, and then I'm going to empower other women too. Because that's where we take our power, and they can't cut all our heads off.
Exactly. No, it's strength in numbers, and they're going to notice us when all of a sudden it's like, oh, home births are really on the right. Have you seen a pregnant woman lately? It's going to be like, nope.
Change your GTFO. That's the way it is. That's how we get our power back. Even if you're going into the hospital and planning a medicated hospital birth, you still deserve to have choice.
Right.
And when you think that the system controls all your choices, you don't have any choice.
They work for you. They are there for you. You are paying them. And
exactly.
That's in the course too. I cover, if you're in the hospital, this is what they're going to want to do. This is what you do. And, make sure you have a husband or a doula there. And, with everything happening right now with the C word, that's another reason why I did this, because kind of have to go unassisted now if you want to have a partner with you.
Yeah. So, there's so much in so many different communities. Like sometimes I'm hearing I'm not allowed to even take my partner in with me. And I'm like, well, you definitely don't want to go to that hospital because they're just going to do things to you and you won't even have a witness to back you up.
Right.
And that's the real reason you need a partner.
Yeah. Some of them won't, you have to test. If you refuse to test, they'll take away your baby. Or if you test positive, they'll take away your baby. Or if you refuse to get the vaccine before leaving, they'll not let you leave, or they'll send CPS to your home. So it's getting really weird out there. So you need to take this into your own hands.
Yeah.
And you can do it. You can do it. We've been doing it for thousands of years.
I just remember in college when I'd read about another culture where they had done an unassisted and it was just like normal for that group.
Right.
And then she's like, well, I just held on to the ropes and then I birthed my baby in the pit. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, I had no concept of physiological birth. And I was like this ignorant little woman who was like, cut me open and give me a C-section and give me a tummy tuck after. And then now, like, I'm freaking birth goddess. And being like, no, like, honestly, I want to go back in time and be like, honey, you're scared because you don't know how beautiful and amazing this can really be and what your power is. And once you have that power, then you go into the hospital for your little bit of medical assistance that you need, and you know that they can't make you do anything else.
Exactly.
Because if they say, oh, we don't delay the cord, you can say, okay, I'm going to birth my baby, and then you're going to not touch me, because if you do, that's assault and battery. And I'm just going to wait for this cord to keep pulsing. And then I'm going to birth the placenta because I know how to do that too. And you can just stay in the corner until I need you. Then you've got your safety net, but you're still doing it yourself.
Right. Exactly.
And that's where your power is. And I mean, I'm going to be sharing a whole bunch of Instagram reels with this as well. They've already started popping up. I'm going to try and do one per day. That's my aim. I may miss a day or two. I mean, hashtag mom life. But like, the idea is right now I'm sharing little clips from the Why Unassisted. So if you're in the Facebook group, thank you so much for joining us. And if you're on YouTube or Instagram, you can go to the Facebook group, facebook.com/group/empowering moms birth. And you can go into this video, and Stephanie is going to drop her email, and she's going to drop her Instagram handle, anything she has for contact information. She's going to drop the name of her website so you can go and check out this amazing course that she has done. Thank you so much, Stephanie. You have a great day.
You too. Blessings.